Have you ever wished you could see what's really going on beneath the surface of people, words, and smiles? What if I told you that gift could destroy your relationships, your peace of mind, and even your sense of who you are? Carl Jung, one of the most brilliant minds in psychology, made a terrifying discovery. Some people are born with a rare ability to perceive what others can e.t. They see the micro-expressions that slip past everyone else. They sense hidden tension when a room looks calm. They know when someone's lying, even if that person is smiling. But Jung warned, this ability doesn't feel like a superpower. It feels like living on the edge of social survival. Today, I'm going to take you deep into Jung's most dangerous discovery, the price of seeing what others don't see. By the end, you'll understand why your perception might have felt like a curse and how you can transform it into your greatest strength. You'll discover why people with this gift so often feel alien, exhausted, and misunderstood, and how Jung's process of individuation can help you turn painful hyper-awareness into integrated wisdom and even cultural impact. But before we dive in, let me ask you something. Have you always felt like you're too aware? That you notice hidden emotions others ignore? That you can't unsee when someone's pretending? If that sounds like you, you're not broken. You're exactly the kind of person Jung studied. This video is for you. Stay until the end, because I'm not just going to explain the danger. I'm going to show you the way out, how to protect your identity, maintain your mental health, and use your extraordinary perception as the evolutionary gift it's meant to be. Subscribe right now if you've ever felt too sensitive or too intuitive. In this channel, we dive deep into Jung's psychology and the hidden forces shaping your inner world. Comment below if you have felt different your whole life, because this is where people like you finally find language for what you've always sensed. Let us begin with the patient who led Jung to his most disturbing insight. A woman who could walk into any room and instantly know what no one dared say aloud. Jung met her in 1913, during the darkest season of his own life. He had just broken from Freud and was wrestling with visions and dreams that threatened to shatter his sense of reality. Into this chaos walked a young woman whose very presence seemed electric. She didn't fidget or smile nervously. She observed, quietly, deeply. And within minutes, Jung felt as if she could see into him, past his practiced calm, straight into the storm he was trying to hide. She explained, almost apologetically, that this happens everywhere. She walks into a room and instantly knows who's fighting secret battles, who's angry but polite, who's lying to themselves. Conversations feel unbearable because small talk is built on masks, and she can't pretend not to see behind them. People avoid her because they feel exposed. Jobs never last because her presence unsettles the quiet agreements groups use to stay comfortable. Jung listened carefully, testing her perceptions against what he knew of colleagues and mutual acquaintances. Again and again, she was correct, unnervingly correct. And yet, far from feeling powerful, she was suffering. She didn't want this gift. It isolated her. It made her doubt her own sanity. If you've felt this way, if your ability to read people feels like standing under a blinding light while everyone else sleeps, you know the pain she carried, the exhaustion of holding what no one else sees, the loneliness of never being fully met or believed. Jung realized something profound. She wasn't delusional, she was hyper-conscious. Her perception wasn't sickness, it was evolution happening early, before society was ready. And that was the real danger. Not the vision itself, but the isolation and psychological fragmentation it could cause. But there was hope. Jung began shaping a process, later called individuation, to help her survive and even thrive with this level of awareness. It's the same process you can learn. Because maybe your suffering isn't a flaw. Maybe it's your consciousness outgrowing the old map. And the very thing making you feel alien today can become the strength that changes how you relate to yourself and the world tomorrow. Before we go deeper into Jung's practical discoveries and how you can integrate this gift, Let S look at the hidden psychological cost of seeing too much. Only when you understand the danger can you begin to build protection and power around it. Next, the invisible price you pay every day if you're one of the rare few who see through the world's masks. When Jung analyzed what was happening inside people like his patient, he uncovered a truth few want to face. Seeing what others can't is emotionally expensive. The price isn't obvious at first, but it shows up everywhere in your life. The first cost is social friction. When you detect tension others are ignoring, your mere presence feels threatening. Families run on unspoken rules. We don't talk about Dad's anger. We pretend everything's fine. But you can't help noticing the undercurrent. People feel it and either distance themselves or label you negative, too intense or difficult. You aren't creating conflict. You're revealing what's already there. The second cost is emotional overload. Highly perceptive individuals don't just notice, they absorb. Walk into a workplace filled with quiet resentment and you'll feel drained before lunch. Sit with a friend hiding heartbreak and your own chest aches. Over time, this constant download of other people's unconscious material erodes your clarity about what is truly yours. The third cost is self-doubt. Because so few can confirm what you see, you begin questioning your sanity. Am I imagining this? Am I too sensitive? You start censoring yourself, shrinking your perceptions to survive socially. And yet the signals keep coming louder and louder. Jung warned, if you don't learn to differentiate what belongs to you and what doesn't, you risk losing yourself entirely. This is what he called participation mystique, when your identity dissolves under the flood of collective emotions and unconscious shadows you've absorbed. But there's something else, something darker. Jung found that people unconsciously attack those who mirror their hidden truth. He called this shadow projection. The moment you reflect what someone refuses to see about themselves, their psyche defends itself by blaming and rejecting you. It's not personal, it's primitive. But it leaves you feeling scapegoated and unsafe. If any of this feels familiar, pause here and know, you're not weak, you're not broken. You're experiencing exactly what Jung described over a century ago. And you are not alone. That's why this channel exists, to name what others ignore and give you language for your inner experience. Subscribe now and share in the comments. Do you relate to absorbing other people's emotions or being labeled too intense for simply noticing truth? The more we connect, the stronger we all become. Next, we'll explore how Jung turned this dangerous gift into a path of integration, the first steps to protect yourself while keeping your perception alive. Jung's first move with his patient was not to dull her perception. He knew that would crush her spirit. Instead, he taught her something radical, the art of psychological boundaries. Most of us think boundaries mean saying no to bad behavior, but for the highly perceptive, boundaries begin inside the mind. Jung called it conscious discrimination, learning to ask moment by moment, is this mine or someone else's? He instructed her to spend time in solitude each day. Silence isn't just rest, it's sorting. When you're alone long enough, the fog begins to lift. You can feel what's authentically yours and what you've absorbed from others. Over time, this practice protects your identity. He also asked her to keep a private journal, but not just any journal. It was a space to name what she sensed without censorship. Writing down impressions moved them out of her body and onto paper, where she could examine them safely. When you name what you perceive, Jung wrote, you stop being swallowed by it. Then came an even deeper task, shadow integration. Jung understood that we're most disturbed by what we haven't owned in ourselves. If you've denied your own anger, other people's rage feels unbearable. If you've never faced your own selfishness, another's manipulation feels radioactive. By slowly admitting, yes, I have these traits too, you become less triggered by what you see. The goal isn't to become blind. To stop being wounded by your own reflection in others. This was life-changing for Jung's patient. As she practiced, her exhaustion began to ease. Her awareness didn't fade, it sharpened, but without consuming her. Think of it like learning to swim after nearly drowning. The water, other people's emotions, doesn't disappear, but you gain the skill to stay afloat. And here's the shift. Once you can separate self from other, your perception turns from curse to compass. Instead of being flooded, you can navigate. Instead of feeling crazy, you become quietly powerful. But Jung warned, this is only the beginning. Many perceptive people stop here. They learn to survive, but remain isolated. Integration goes further. It asks you to re-enter relationships consciously, no longer hiding, but no longer losing yourself. That S where we re-going next. How to step back into the world with your gift intact and your identity strong. Once Jung's patient could hold her own center, he guided her toward the next challenge. Reconnecting with people, but with strategy. He taught her to search for what he called the few who understand. These are individuals who can handle truth without panic or attack. They're not threatened by depth, they welcome it. Jung described 3 kinds of allies for the highly perceptive. Fellow individuated souls, rare, but instantly recognizable. There's a quiet sense of safety when you meet someone who has done their own deep work. You can be honest without shrinking or performing. Those on the path, people actively exploring self-awareness through therapy, spirituality, or reflection. They may not be as sensitive as you, but they respect perception and are willing to grow. Natural containers, mature personalities who've faced hardship and can hold emotional truth without collapse or judgment. Finding these people matters. Without them, your insights have nowhere safe to land, and isolation creeps back in. Jung believed that healing happens in witness, not with everyone, but with the right ones. But how do you know if someone is safe? Jung advised what he called the gradual revelation protocol. Start small. Offer light observations and see how they respond. Do they become curious or defensive? Can they admit fault, or do they rush to attack? Slowly increase the depth as you build trust. This prevents the common trauma of oversharing into danger. At the same time, Jung cautioned against trying to wake the unconscious by force. Preaching, fixing, or exposing someone's hidden wounds before they re-ready usually triggers their shadow, and you'll become the enemy. True service, he said, comes from patience and humility. This was transformative for his patient. For the first time, she formed real friendships. She met others who could engage with her insights, not fear them. Instead of feeling like a dangerous mirror, she felt like a valuable ally. When you return to the world this way, with clarity, with caution, and with conscious allies, your perception stops isolating you. It starts connecting you. And here's a hard truth. Not everyone will welcome what you see. Some will always resist. But you'll know how to choose wisely, where to invest your depth, and that single skill can protect you from years of loneliness and confusion. Up next, we'll step into the heart of Jung's greatest insight, transformation. How your once painful gift can evolve into wisdom powerful enough to shape culture, if you dare to integrate it fully. Once his patient had built boundaries and found safe connection, Jung guided her toward the ultimate question. What will you do with this power? Because perception is energy, and if you don't channel it consciously, it will consume you. Jung believed superior perception isn't meant to be buried or flaunted. It's meant to be integrated and offered. When you stop fighting your awareness and begin shaping it, something extraordinary happens. Clarity turns into wisdom. He taught her to approach perception like a craft. Instead of blurting insights or hiding them, she learned to translate them into helpful language. Not "you're lying," but "I sense there's more to your story, want to share." Not "you're anxious," but "something feels tense." Is there something you need? The same truth, but spoken in ways others can hear. He also encouraged creative expression, writing, art, teaching. When you create, you process the flood of unconscious material and give it shape outside your body. It's not just self-therapy, it's medicine for others who can't yet name what they feel. But Jung's deepest warning came here. Beware the prophet trap. Once you taste how accurate your perception is, ego wants to make you savior, judge, or genius. That inflation, believing you are here to rescue or correct everyone, is the fastest road back to isolation. Humility is the anchor. Your gift is real, but it doesn't make you superior. It makes you responsible. For Jung's patient, this shift was life-altering. She moved from fear to purpose. Instead of hiding her ability, she used it gently, helping people heal, coaching those who felt unseen, and creating art that spoke truths others couldn't express. This is where suffering transforms. You stop asking, "Why can't I be normal?" and start asking, "How can I serve with what I know?" You move from alien to guide, from overwhelmed to impactful. And here, as something to hold on to, you don't have to change the whole world. You only need to change the way you show up in it. When you embody integrated perception, you give unconscious spaces permission to wake up, one person, one room at a time. But to sustain this, you must keep evolving. Jung discovered that integration isn't a finish line, it's a living process. Without maintenance, old wounds reopen and the flood returns. Next, we'll go deeper into how to maintain this transformation, so your gift remains a source of strength instead of burnout. Integration is alive. It breathes and shifts with every season of your life. Jung warned that even those who master their perception can slip back into overwhelm if they stop tending to it. His patient learned this the hard way. After months of progress, a sudden betrayal from a friend reopened her old wounds. For weeks, she was flooded again, unable to tell her feelings from everyone else's. But because she'd built tools, she recovered faster. Here's what Jung taught her, and what you can practice too. 1. Scheduled solitude. Highly perceptive people need intentional time alone, not as escape, but as calibration. It's where you drain what's not yours and return to your own emotional baseline. 2. Conscious shadow work. Keep naming the dark parts of yourself. When you accept your own anger, envy, or fear, other people's shadows lose power over you. 3. Selective engagement. You're not required to read every room or help every person. Choose when to turn the radar on and when to let it rest. 4. Safe mirrors. Maintain relationships with those who can see you clearly. Without fellow truth-tellers, you risk drifting back into self-doubt. 5. Creative release. Keep producing. Journaling, painting, speaking, whatever clears the emotional backlog before it turns into burnout. Jung described integration like tending a fire. Feed it just enough to stay alive. Guard it from the winds that would extinguish or inflame it. You are responsible for the conditions that keep your gift safe and sustainable. And here's where the transformation deepens. When you care for your perception this way, you stop fearing it. You stop asking how to shut it off. Instead, you learn to wield it, responsibly, wisely, and with a quiet strength that doesn't need validation. If this resonates, subscribe now, because here, we don't just admire Jung's theory, we use it to survive and thrive. Share below one practice you'll try this week to protect your energy and stay clear. Your comment might help someone else who feels alone in this journey. Next, we'll step into Jung's vision of the bigger picture, how integrated perception isn't just personal healing, but cultural medicine. Jung believed that once your perception is integrated, it becomes more than survival. It becomes service. He saw highly perceptive individuals as consciousness pioneers, people whose inner growth prepares the collective to evolve. History is full of them. Long before new ideas become culture, they show up first inside single sensitive minds. What seems like personal pain is often the early echo of future change. You may feel lonely because you're sensing what your family, community, or even society isn't ready to face yet. Unhealthy patterns, false narratives, unsustainable choices. Jung wrote, "What is not brought to consciousness comes to us as fate." By noticing first, you give humanity a chance to change fate before it's too late. But, and this is vital, your role isn't to force awakening. Cultural medicine doesn't come through shouting. It comes through living integrated truth so clearly that others feel safe enough to examine their own. It's about influence, not invasion. For Jung's patient, this meant quietly becoming a healer in her community. She didn't label herself extraordinary. She simply used her insight to help people feel seen and safe. Over years, she became a node of transformation, a place where unconscious material could rise and find language without shame. That is the secret. Your presence becomes medicine when it's rooted in humility, clarity, and love. Think of it like light, not a spotlight blinding others, but a lantern that invites them closer. You don't force awareness. You create safety for it. Jung saw this as the highest calling of superior perception. Not to save the world, but to be a living proof that deeper seeing is survivable and beautiful. And here was something hopeful. You don't need millions of followers or a global stage. One conscious life radiates further than you imagine. A single integrated person shifts families, friendships, workplaces. Jung said, "The individual has always been the carrier of the living spirit." Coming up next, we'll look at the common pitfalls that can sabotage this transformation, the traps that turn potential wisdom into fresh isolation. Avoid these, and your journey can keep moving towards strength and impact. Jung admired the potential of superior perception, but he also documented how easily it goes wrong. If you're one of the rare who sees deeply, you must know these traps. They're subtle, but they can undo everything you've built. Pitfall 1. The profit trap. The moment you realize you're right, more often than not, ego whispers, "You're chosen. You must wake everyone up." But forcing insight onto the unwilling backfires. People resist, attack, or cut you off, and you end up isolated again. Not because you're wrong, but because you tried to save before they were ready. Humility is your safeguard. Pitfall 2. Withdrawal, masquerading as wisdom. When burned by rejection, it's tempting to retreat forever and call it boundaries. But isolation isn't protection, it's slow starvation. Jung warned that hiding from humanity under the banner of superiority kills growth. The goal is selective connection, not total escape. Pitfall 3. The helper identity. You start defining yourself only by helping, healing, or understanding others. Sounds noble, but it's dangerous. If your worth depends on being useful, you'll lose touch with your own development and become drained. Remember, you're a person, not just a function. Pitfall 4. Overwhelm, return. Even when integrated, big life shocks, betrayal, grief, burnout can tear open the floodgates. Old pain rushes back. This doesn't mean you've failed. It means integration is alive and must be maintained. When it happens, return to your tools. Solitude, journaling, safe allies. Jung's patient faced all of these at some point. Each time she fell, the difference was awareness. Instead of being consumed, she recognized the pattern, applied the skills, and climbed back. You can too. Seeing deeply is not a one-time victory, it's a lifelong practice. Up next, we'll step into Jung's vision of legacy, how to live with this gift without clinging to recognition, and how to shape a life of quiet but powerful impact. Jung saw that the final stage of integration is quiet but revolutionary, living your truth without needing applause, validation, or control. He called this the transcendent function, the ability to serve consciousness without being possessed by it. His patient, years after first staggering into his office, reached this place. She no longer felt compelled to prove her insight or warn everyone. She simply lived awake. Her work as a counselor helped many, but she didn't measure success by recognition. The gift was not something to show off. It was something to inhabit. This is where perception stops being heavy. You're no longer trying to fit in or stand out. You're simply present, deeply aware, and deeply yourself. And that presence alone is transformative. Jung warned that this stage is easily misunderstood. People may still call you strange or intense because you won't play by unconscious rules. But their opinion loses its power over you. You know who you are, and you've built a life around authenticity, not approval. This doesn't mean withdrawal. The transcendent function engages the world, but lightly. You can walk into any room, feel what's there, and choose how to respond without drowning or preaching. You can offer insight when invited, stay silent when it's wise, and love people even when they're not ready to love truth. Your legacy becomes the ripple effect of a fully integrated life. Children who grow up in an honest emotional climate, friends who feel safe to be real, workplaces subtly shifted by your grounded presence. Sometimes cultural change begins not with revolutions, but with quiet, conscious people who refuse to live unconsciously. And here's the paradox. The less you chase impact, the more impact you have. Clarity radiates. Up next, we'll revisit Jung's original patient, how her journey ended, and what it means for you right now if you've spent years feeling too much, seeing too much, and fearing it will always hurt. Remember the young woman who arrived at Jung's door, trembling under the weight of what she could see? After 3 years of work, she walked back into life transformed. She still sensed what others missed, the sadness behind smiles, the quiet rage under politeness. But she no longer drowned in it. She could name what belonged to her and what did not. She had friends who valued her honesty instead of fearing it. She built a career that turned perception into purpose, guiding people through pain she once could only witness helplessly. Most of all, she no longer believed she was broken. The very trait that once threatened to destroy her became her compass. She learned, as Jung wrote, not to see less, but to see more wisely. This is the heart of Jung's most dangerous discovery. The danger is not your perception. The danger is being unprepared for it. Without tools and self-knowledge, your gift can isolate and crush you. With integration, it becomes guidance for you and for those lucky enough to meet you. Maybe you've spent years feeling alien or exhausted by life's emotional noise. Maybe you've been blamed for truths you couldn't unsee. Today you know why, and that there's a way forward. Because your sensitivity isn't weakness. It's advanced consciousness waking early. And though the world may not always understand, it desperately needs what you carry once it's shaped and safe. So breathe. You're not alone, and you're not broken. You're ahead. Next, let's anchor this entire journey with a call to action. Not just to subscribe, but to step into your own individuation with courage and connection. If anything in this story felt like looking into a mirror, it's because you belong to a rare psychological lineage Jung believed essential for human evolution. Your ability to see isn't a curse, it's an invitation. But invitations must be answered. Answer it by doing what Jung taught. Protect your boundaries, practice solitude, integrate your own shadow, seek safe allies, create instead of suppress. Stop apologizing for noticing truth. Stop shrinking so others can stay comfortable. Learn to wield your gift, not as a weapon, but as a light. If this spoke to you, subscribe now. Not just to follow another channel, but to join a community where deep perception isn't shamed or feared. Comment below and share. Which part of this journey do you recognize? The exhaustion? The boundary building? The call to serve? Your story might free someone else who thinks they're alone. The world is quietly waiting for people like you to become conscious and strong. When you master your perception, you break cycles of unconsciousness in families, workplaces, and communities. You become what Jung called a culture carrier, someone who quietly shifts reality forward. And remember, you're not too much. You're exactly enough for the work consciousness wants to do through you. Before we close, let me leave you with Jung's own words, a compass for anyone walking this path. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. That is your task. That is your protection. That is your legacy. Now, if you're ready for the next step, I've linked another video where we explore the 7 most psychologically dangerous environments for highly perceptive people and how to navigate them without losing yourself. Watch it next. It's the map you need to keep growing safely. See you there. And remember, what you see isn't the danger. Failing to own it is. Here's the truth Jung left for all who see too much. The world doesn't need you smaller. It needs you whole. It needs your perception integrated, not muted. It needs your presence steady enough to hold truth without breaking and humble enough to offer insight without wounding. Your journey may be hard. You'll lose people who can't handle what you see. You'll face seasons of deep doubt. But with the right tools and the right tribe, you'll also find freedom, belonging, and purpose. This channel exists to walk that path with you. Together, we're reclaiming the narrative. Too sensitive is not a flaw. It's advanced awareness waiting for mastery. Subscribe, comment, and share this video with someone who's felt like an alien in their own life. Let's build a space where perception isn't shamed but sharpened. And if you're ready to keep going, your next step is clear. Watch the companion video I created. 7 Psychological environments that destroy highly sensitive minds. It's your survival map for navigating a world that isn't always conscious. Your perception isn't dangerous when you know how to live with it. Your difference isn't a wound. It's the edge where humanity grows. Carry it well.